Hello, my name is Eric Smith, and this is an excerpt from my autobiographical series, My Life in Not So Much a Nutshell, but more of a Melon Rind. This is from the second of those 4 books. The next night, after putting Evangeline to bed in her crib, Emmett and I sat on the pull-out sofa. "Do you want to continue the story from last night?" I asked the boy. "Yeah," he replied enthusiastically. "Okay," I said, and jumped into the story. Well, young Tatsu kept coming back to the castle over the next few months. He tried to talk the king into letting him relocate more of his peoples. They agreed to transport 300 cannibalistic tribesmen and women to Donut Island. Tatsu didn't want to live on the floating island himself, but wanted to ensure that his family would be untouched. King Stanley assigned Mukluk the Wizard to attempt to civilize the remaining Inforgians. A few were interested in what the old warlock had to say, but it was a slow and steep climb. Mukluk reported to King Stanley twice a week. "Your Majesty, I have supplied them with livestock," the wizened man informed the ruler on the 4th report. "They killed the lot in about 5 minutes. King Stanley looked gravely to Tatsu. "This is bad news, young Tatsu. Your people are so violent, and for no apparent reason." Mukluk pitched in. "Sir, there is an old proverb that fits this situation. Usted no puede alterar el spot de un ocelete." The king looked at the wizard crossly. "What does that mean?" "My apologies, your majesty," the wizard bowed. "It translates to, 'You cannot alter the spot of an ocelot.'" King Stanley nodded. "Thank you, Mukluk. Report back in 3 days." Emmett was completely enthralled in the story now. Tatsu was starting to feel a bit hopeless. He knew that if the Inforgians couldn't become more civilized, there would be a war. 4 days later, Mukluk hadn't turned up. The king showed great concern as he confided in his generals and wizard advisors. Ralphazor suggested that they send a party of soldiers to find Mukluk. "Yes," the king replied. "Lord Wiltshire, you shall be in charge, brother. Go in with 10 men to find our magical friend." The next morning, the castle lookouts blew the horn of imminent danger, which was housed on the top of the tallest tower of the castle. "What is going on?" King Stanley asked his chief guard, General Sinep. Before Sinep could respond, however, Lord Wiltshire came running in through the gigantic wooden door. He had 2 men running behind him. "Brother," Lord Wiltshire shouted, "Mukluk is dead. So is the rest of my party." The king quickly arrived at his brother's side. "What has happened, dear brother?" "The cannibals were roasting Mukluk over a fire. They planned for us to come for him. They were ready. Private Moultard found the wand of Mukluk. He passed it to me before they got to him. Moultard was decapitated, your majesty. We 3 barely escaped with our lives." He then handed the king a small, light brown stick. "This is grave news. Ralphazor, how soon can we attack the Inforgians?" The king wiped a tear from his eye. "Within the evening, your majesty," Ralphazor replied. "I shall enter the battle myself." "You stay here, brother," King Stanley said to Lord Wiltshire. "Wow," Emmett supplied. "They killed him?" "They did," I said to the child. They are bad people, right?" Emmett asked. "Yeah," he looked down. "What happened then?" King Stanley led a troop of 250 men into a battle. They arrived at the Inforgian encampment. 2 wizards, Ralphazor and Eric, were part of the king's group. The fight was intense. 2,001 people died on the battlefield, including King Stanley, who was stabbed through the heart by Jocko, the scariest Inforgian. Jocko had more muscle than any other being on the islands. After he stabbed the king, Ralphazor sent a green spell at Jocko's heart, killing him on impact. The battle was won. The 3 surviving Inforgians threw down the large spears that they were using and laid down. It was over, at last.